This episode is powered by Poddex.
But without further ado, let's jump into this one. I thought this was going to be real. I think this is going to be more like terrifying concepts.
Yeah,
I think
like
it's just gonna be more
creepypasta kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's just more to scare us. We'll find out though.
All right.
Man, once you've seen your parents having sex, nothing scares you. You're like, I don't know, man. I've seen some pretty crazy shit since that moment. You're like, I've seen your parents having sex. That scared me worse. I was like, what? Honestly,
I'm trying to figure out
grandparents having sex. You're right. That's even worse. Just going down the line, great grandparents having sex. That'd be terrifying considering they're dead.
just skeletons going at it.
Yeah, I saw my great grandparents boning.
All
Literally. All right. The following contains disturbing imagery. I almost said energy.
Oh, that probably too.
Yeah. Disturbing energy.
The dark side of YouTube. A place.
The dark side of YouTube.
The dark side of YouTube.
I have a very particular set of skills.
I have a very particular set of skills.
That I probably frequent far too often for my own good, but I've fallen in love with the search for finding the most twisted channels on the site, as evident from my series called
Can you pause it for a
YouTube.
second? I love that it's just a random asshole with a hookah, and it's got like this ominous music.
Yeah.
Like why he's just like, yeah, hookah.
Like the dude's smiling. He looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah, and it's like got the ominous music, just like what is gonna happen to the hookah man? All right, well,
Darkest channels. But in these haunting corners, I often find myself stumbling upon one-off videos whose origins are both deeply disturbing and entirely mysterious. And today we'll be deep diving into 3 in particular that have proven to be just a few of YouTube's darkest videos.
all right.
3, 2, 1.
Space exploration. At its most successful, we have produced some of mankind's greatest accomplishments.
That's one small step for man.
But with these inspiring victories came tragic failures.
Challenger, go at throttle up.
There's little room for error when attempting to visit space, and oftentimes the failures are catastrophic to the point where they can't be hidden from the public eye. But oddly enough, perhaps one of the greatest disasters in the great pursuit of space is likely one that many of you haven't heard of, and that's because in large part, it may have been covered up. It happened back in February 1996 at the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in China.
Oh, never mind. I was looking at that video. I'm like, that's from 1996. That shit looks crisp as fuck. But
Yeah, I was gonna say.
it's probably just like an example.
There, an American company named Space Systems, in collaboration with Chinese scientists, had built a telecommunications satellite that was set to take off on the 15th of the month, with China having built and produced the rocket itself. The satellite would be known as Intelsat 708, and was set to orbit Earth for 15 long years, an estimated lifespan that would turn out to be far too generous, as in actuality, its trip would only last a mere 15 seconds. On the 15th of February 1996, the Seattle Times would publish an article titled "China Rocket Crashes to Earth, Fatalities Reported in Space Program Setback." The story went on to read, the newly developed Long March 3B rocket carrying the Intelsat Inc. satellite veered towards the ground and exploded moments after liftoff at 3:01 a.m. Hong Kong radio said 4 people were killed and dozens were injured in the explosion, but Shang Lui, a spokeswoman for the government aerospace agency, said that there were no deaths. It's a devastating scene to imagine, however, as the rocket was said to weigh roughly 900,000 pounds and would have produced a violent explosion. But the early conflicting reports in the death toll were initially a promising sign, as the one official source had claimed that there were no fatalities. However, this number would later be changed after investigation, as Chinese officials reported that, in the end, 6 people had died as the result of the satellite's crash, along with a whopping 57 others having suffered minor injuries. In the
Like I guess like I'm trying to figure out like how they're like, oh, there were no deaths. Like, how the fuck do you know that?
Yeah,
Like, if there's a rocket that's 900,000 pounds, like there could be somebody buried underneath it. How can you say like, oh no, there's nobody dead?
well, so this is off the Wikipedia page, so take this with your whatever. But take this with your wacky juice. The nature and extent of the damage remain a subject of dispute. The Chinese government, through its official Xinhua, sorry, any Chinese listeners, if I totally butchered your language, which I know there's different dialects and whatever, but Xinhua news agency reported that 6 people were killed and 57 injured. However, American estimates, I know what they meant to say. American estimates suggest that anywhere between 200 and 500 people might have been killed in the crash. So going from 6 dead with 57 injured to 200 to 500 people dead.
How do you cover that up?
Yeah, like
That's nuts. Well, from the U.S. estimates, they're probably basing it off of like, okay, when it crashed, this would have been the size of the explosion. If the explosion occurred here, these would have been the buildings nearby. This is how many people would have been in those buildings. So like,
yeah, they're doing statistical estimates because this is it says right here that when reporters were being taken away from the site, they found that most buildings had sustained serious damage or had been flattened completely. Some eyewitnesses were noted as having seen dozens of ambulance and many flatbed trucks loaded with what could have been human remains being taken to the local hospital.
I don't know if they're
the
done
grand scheme
talking.
of things, it was a tragic event, but with the information presented by the government, it seemed safe to say that things could have gone a lot worse, and that's because they likely did. When on site, the group of Americans would wind up filming the entire event in a recording that has now found a home on YouTube. And thanks to this video, we have a visual of just how horrific the incident truly was.
Oh, there's an actual video of it happening. Oh yeah, that doesn't look good.
Are those things supposed to go straight?
Yeah, they're supposed to go like, they're supposed to like basically get almost to the atmosphere before they start to turn. That bitch started turning. Oh yeah, it's coming down
Yeah.
already. Okay, so that. Okay, so yeah, that's bullshit. How can a rocket go straight up, come basically straight back down on your facility, and you say first of all that nobody died, and then come back and say, oh yeah, 6 people died? Like,
So this
no.
is what the part says right here. So Bruce Campbell of Astrotech and other American eyewitnesses in Zaicheng reported that the satellite post-crash was surprisingly intact, along with the opinion that the official death toll only reflects those in the military who were caught by the disaster and not the civilian population. And then it says, in the years to follow, the village that used to border the launch center has vanished with little trace it ever existed. However, Chen Lan, writing in the Space Review, later claimed that the total population of the village was under 1,000 and that most, if not all, of the population had been evacuated before launch, making it very unlikely that there were hundreds of deaths. So it's kind of like China versus America right now in terms of this investigation on that level.
Yeah.
And like, it almost sounds like a cover-up, but
Yeah, and given this was in 96, so like 24, 25 years ago now, I don't even know if this is something they're still looking into. If they're,
oh no, they've already
the
buried
fact,
it.
yeah, the fact that it happened in China too, they probably buried it months after, and now people just
Definitely
reference it. But
well, that's the thing. It's like, it's not like I'm not gonna put out false information. I'm not gonna say, oh, this is definitely a Chinese cover up. And I'm not saying America doesn't cover up shit either. Like, we definitely do. Fucking Epstein for one. But the Chinese government, just like any other government, probably has their whoopsie moments where they try to not seem nationally weak to the rest of the world. And I could definitely see this on my perspective, my opinion, being a cover-up.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's a devastating explosion, and one that created such a powerful shockwave that all the glass in the surrounding area had shattered, something that can actually be heard moments after the crash. And this isn't the only angle shown in the video either, as someone in a nearby town had been recording as well. This angle shows the rocket striking incredibly close to where the person was filming, but what it failed to show is that not only had this rocket crashed, but it had crashed directly in the center of what is believed to be Maylin Village, an area that was said to be home to well over 1,000 civilians. Seeing the massive explosion and knowing it happened right in the middle of a populated village leaves one to imagine how only 6 people had lost their lives. And things only get more suspicious as the video shows the destruction up close the following day.
Looks like the rec center. Look at this car. I'm gonna window for Troy. He's got it.
It's hard to put into words the level of ruin that this village was in following the crash. Buildings everywhere were not just damaged, but decimated, reduced to nothing but rubble. And it wasn't in a centralized location either, as the damage was spread out everywhere, making it unlikely that many would survive the ordeal had they been in the immediate area. Which begs that question, how had more people not died? This question has prompted many to wonder whether or not China had covered up the official number of casualties in an attempt to not lose all credibility in their space program. A theory that is further brought into question by the fact that reporters were quickly taken away from the site, only to see dozens of ambulances, as well as flatbed trucks that some claimed were used to load the dead. Trucks that had gotten to the scene well before the Americans
that tells you
recording
right
the...
there. Go ahead, pause it. That tells you everything you need to know right there. If those reporters of like what they say they saw has been validated, I wish there was some camera footage of that, because that would have told us everything we needed to know. If there's ambulance and flatbed trucks, that because like what the reporter's saying is that the city was evacuated. If the city was evacuated, they would not have to send anything more than like 1 or 2 ambulances in just to check on like maybe the few soldiers that were posted out there or something like that. If they're sending in over dozens, like. Yeah, no, we still can't fully validate it because they don't have any actual footage of them sending in those vehicles.
Yeah,
it's just,
and especially with like the flatbed, like small like dump trucks, basically to go carry out bodies. Like you said, if the city was evacuated, you might like you said, a handful of soldiers or a handful of like maybe old stubborn people that are like, no, this is my house, I'm not leaving it, kind of thing. Like maybe yeah, for like a couple dozen, but like you said.
And you see the wreckage. They didn't take any wreckage or anything away. It
No.
looked like everything was still there, just completely destroyed. So why were they sending in flatbed trucks?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still word against word.
Yeah.
Able to, which would have provided them ample time to remove any bodies from the area. However, despite the video emerging and all the questions put forth, the official death toll has never been changed by Chinese officials. Yet in the United States, experts have given their own estimates of the sheer magnitude of the catastrophe, as it's widely believed that anywhere from 200 to 500 people had perished as a result of the faulty satellite launch, with some experts even suggesting that the number is even higher. And just watching this infamous video, it's not hard to understand why, but unfortunately it's likely we'll never know how many people died that day, as Chinese officials have held firm on their death toll, claiming the area had actually been evacuated before impact, though this claim is heavily disputed to this day. And it's made even more difficult to find answers, as the village itself that's shown within this video technically doesn't even exist. According to a handful of first-hand accounts, after the incident, this entire village had simply vanished, with there being, quote, virtually no trace of it having ever existed. In the end, we're left with countless unanswered questions, and this one chilling YouTube video of what may very well be the most devastating space-related disaster of all time, as it's likely we'll never see anything of this magnitude again. Or so I thought.
Damn.
That just happened in 2018.
Yeah.
You know, that's just bad engineering, because they have stuff like that that falls back to Earth, because it only takes it so far, and then the rest of it continues, like whatever the payload is or the passengers, and then the actual like rocket and stuff like that falls back to Earth. But either they guide it so that it falls into the ocean where it's not going to hurt anybody, or now they even have like homing systems on it where it can land itself back at the station, like at like an airport safely. So like that's just bad engineering, especially 2-3 years ago that this happened. You know, something that just falls back to Earth and fucking falls out a village of people.
Dude, yeah, like, come on. Like, good luck covering that one up.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what. Oh, in November 23rd, 2019. God, they are not good at.
Yeah, they gotta stay away from space.
September 7th,
December 7th, 2020?
The orange cloud is very toxic, caused by rockets' fuel.
The following were all videos that have surfaced here on YouTube from China, showcasing other rocket launch failures that, again, have decimated more towns. And these disasters have taken place very recently, with most having gone unreported on by Chinese officials. And had it not been for these YouTube videos, we would likely have no idea that these disasters had even happened. It's very clear that China has been covering up many of these devastating failures, with it all likely.
Okay, that makes me wonder more about the 1996 one. If the fact that there's literally video
100% they
evidence,
covered it up.
that there's literally video evidence of multiple occurrences happening within the last 3 years. Most recently, like 6 months ago, and they're like, "Oh, Chinese officials have not commented on it." It's like, okay, then they're covering it up. There's literally video evidence, fucking like cameras and
Yeah, there's
like,
no hiding
video cameras.
that.
Yeah.
Like, those don't look like fake videos. And that's the, like, it looks like real shit falling in from the sky. It didn't look doctored. It didn't look like.
No, especially because there's follow-up videos of people looking at the impact and the destruction of it afterwards.
Yeah, it's so that's not a point they can try to make. Oh, they're just trying to slander Chinese fucking innovation. It's like, no, you guys suck.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the 1996 one is a cover-up and that they didn't evacuate everybody and hundreds of people didn't die. But you lie
nail in the coffin.
You lie once, and you can only assume that they're lying about all of it.
Oh yeah, well yeah. And the nail in the coffin on that one for me is that the town disappeared after. You'd think if they evacuated everyone, you'd think those people, like, even despite their town being completely destroyed, you'd think they'd want to rebuild their town. You think their stories would be told. You think there'd be more of their stories circulating if there were that many survivors from a town. You'd think that'd be a story that trickled down through China. Be like, yeah, there, because like that's thousands of people.
Yeah, they said there's 1,000 people that live in that village. Oh, they're all evacuated. Okay, cool. You don't even need all 1,000. A couple of hundred of them to verify. Yeah, they came in and evacuated us. Or like, to literally say, yeah, I used to live there and now I don't because it got decimated. So I live a couple villages over now. Like, if there's no validation of that, then it's hard not to say, oh yeah, all those people just died.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Having started back with Intelsat 708. So though for now this may likely be the most devastating space launch failure ever, it may not hold this title forever.
At the rate China's going,
Yeah.
like in 2021, new numbers coming, I guess.
Our next video takes us to Bosnia, which is home to some of the most famous and highest bridge diving competitions in the world. And though these events may seem reckless and risky, in actuality they are a commonplace, with TV networks even airing the competitions live, with little fear of capturing tragedy on live
Red
TV.
Bull
And
sponsors
on August
that
7th,
shit.
Yeah.
2016, one of these televised events would go live as divers jumped from a 65-foot bridge in the river Drina.
And didn't know there was
One
a
of the
rock.
top competitors entering the day was Andre Bew, a gold medalist diver with thousands of dives under his belt. And though the water was said to be a little chilly that day, conditions were otherwise perfect for the event, as Andre prepared to show off his skill to the crowd. And from the moment he leapt off that platform, he appeared to be in top form, hitting the water with his usual grace. Yet another stellar dive by the champion. Only this time, things would quickly go wrong. Andre can be seen on camera for a moment resurfacing from his dive, but almost immediately things go awry as his head submerges back under the water, disappearing into the murky depths. Soon after, we can see one of his arms briefly break the surface before going under again, this time disappearing completely. Luckily, there was a rescue crew waiting on standby for a moment just like this, as they drove their boats over to the struggling swimmer. But despite the large number of emergency staff, they all seemed hesitant to jump in the water, and it takes Andre's head resurfacing once again for the first lifeguard to enter the water. However, at this point, he was already gone. Andre, the championship diver, a man who has done countless other dives just like this, had vanished, and vanished to the point where emergency crews would eventually be called off. His lifeless body would be found days later down the river on August 11th, having suffered from multiple fractures as well as typical decay. The video would soon be posted to YouTube and picked up steam on local.
Why do you have a rescue crew if they just like drive around and
Yeah,
like,
why'd they hesitate? Why you
Yeah.
gonna, like your one job, save the fucking guy. You're going to hesitate? I don't trust you at your job. They should have all been fired. They should have all been fucking.
especially
by the
because right when the first guy did jump in, they saw him resurface. How do you not get him at that point? How do you not have like 5 people jump in the water and go get the guy?
Yeah, seriously. Why'd one guy jump in? You had 2 lifeboats. All of you had life jackets on, it looked like. So if you're worried about getting pulled by the current, you should at least have some kind of anchor line cable that you can just suspend yourself to the boat, so you're not gonna drift off. Like either way, like you're right there, you're right on top of this guy.
And the fact that it says days later they found him, like you literally let him just go for days.
Yeah, like what the fuck? He surfaced right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, he was right there.
Well, it said he had multiple fractures, so either the water, like he hit the water, because like they say hitting like flat water is worse than hitting like choppy water.
Yeah.
Because if it's flat, it's like hitting concrete. So especially jumping from that high, he could have like broke his arms or his legs or something, so he couldn't swim.
Yeah,
'Cause they
or his
said-
back.
Yeah, or his back. Yeah.
And worldwide news outlets, with many wondering what could have happened to make this otherwise masterful diver lose his life on such a routine day, especially given that there seemed to be nothing in his near-perfect dive that would indicate a risk of injury upon hitting the water. And even if it hadn't been perfect, the large number of emergency staff should have been enough to prevent a tragedy like this. But despite them being on scene within seconds, not only was he not rescued, but his body would go missing for days. Despite the video being viewed over 1 million times, there still seems to be no concrete and accepted cause of death, which has caused several theories to pop up as to what may have actually happened that day. Some theorize that the cold temperature of the water had sent his body into shock, a note that is given some validity as the
Okay, but if the guy's had thousands of dives, that's not a valid point. I'm sure he's jumped into freezing water before and his body's acclimated to it.
Or at least you think he would have went in the water earlier and prepared himself prior to the jump.
Yeah, exactly.
emergency crew on hand would later give an excuse for not entering the water in a timely manner by saying that the water was, quote, too cold, a jarring claim given that they were paid professionals.
So wear wetsuits.
Too cold for you to save a man's life. That is the most okay, hey, no, I'm not gonna say outside. All right, if there are any EMS people who listen to our podcast or anyone who works on any kind of rescue crew, if you ever have the audacity to say it's too cold to get in the water to save another human being's life, I will punch you in the fucking throat and I will drown you myself.
It's like a firefighter saying, "Oh, I didn't go in to save the person's life because the fire was too hot."
It was too hot in there. I forgot my nice cold jacket. Like what? No, like this one's not properly insulated. Like what? No. What the fuck? The water's too cold, my ass. Oh, and then so the several. You're telling me this is an experienced crew, dude. That's what he's about to say. He's about to say this is an experienced crew of rescue workers. Sounds like bullshit to me.
Well, it's in Bosnia. How like how
maybe that's just the Bosnian way. Water too cold. We don't rescue. Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? Too cold.
Professionals hired specifically to rescue helpless swimmers, yet they were deterred by cold water. But this shock theory doesn't fully add up, as multiple divers had already participated up until this point, and none had faced any issues whatsoever. And if the water was truly that cold, one would imagine that they would have just cancelled the event altogether, as again, these were legitimate, professionally run events. Now, perhaps the darkest theory put forth is that Andre was dragged below the surface by something in the water. This may sound ridiculous at first, but the River Drina is known to be inhabited by a species of fish called the Wells catfish. And these catfish are remarkably large, as they can reach sizes of over 9 feet long.
Okay, but again, if dozens of divers went before him, how come none of them got dragged under?
Well, and even if it was that, say he was to get, like, the thing is, he surfaced 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause like first it was his head, then his arm, and then his head came back up again a second time. So, by that logic, like I would assume that fish would have pulled him down completely by then. That's a big fucking
especially
fish.
yeah, that thing's hundreds of pounds.
Yeah, like it. And it would have looked completely different. He would have been screaming. He would have been thrashing. He would have probably been, adrenaline would have probably kicked in, and he would have probably been swimming a lot fucking faster and harder. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Even with
they're just looking
injury.
for more excuses other than the fucking
They're trying
rescue
to justify
crew.
the incompetency. Yeah, they're trying to justify the incompetency of that EMS crew, which is not okay at all. They should all be fucking held accountable. Like they should lose their jobs, maybe even sued.
Yeah,
by the family.
I'm surprised, especially because like I said, Red Bull sponsors this stuff, so it's not like it's a hidden thing that happened. It look like there's hundreds of people watching this happen, so it's like how is this not like more looked into? I don't know.
With the heaviest,
oh god, I was gonna say the EMS crews fucking drinking beers together on their boat, and they're like, oh, we actually got to do our job. Fuck.
Being caught, weighing in at a staggering 330 pounds, and they are said to be extremely hostile, especially during mating season when males are guarding their nests. And coincidentally, the competition had taken place right at the end of their typical mating season. So it's entirely possible that when Andre jumped in the water, he landed in the vicinity of one of these protective fish, who would have then instinctively attacked, dragging him under the water and leaving him unable to swim back to the surface. This would explain why he seems to almost be sucked under the water, even looking behind him as if he noticed it coming towards him, as well as why the emergency response team was so hesitant to jump in after him. Plus, it would account for how his body had disappeared so quickly, and how they were unable to locate it until days after, with multiple fractures. And given the lack of protruding teeth that these fish have, The injuries that it would have left behind would be more akin to bruising and fractures, which were injuries that were supposedly prevalent on his body. And these facts are far from the only evidence to point to this cause of death, with the most damning coming from the video itself. When watching the clip, right as we see Andre's arm surface for the final time, we can see what appears to be a fin breaking the surface just feet away from him. Many have speculated that this could be the tail fin of a giant Wells catfish, as it appears to be completely synchronized with Andre going under the water for the final time.
How can you say that's a fin? There's literally ripples in the water everywhere.
Yeah.
How can you be like, oh, that's a fin?
How can you? I could point over here and be like, "That's a fin." Like I could point over.
Yeah.
Here, like,
How do you know? How do you know that's his hand? That could be his fin. That could be.
Yeah,
his fin.
like yeah, like, and that's the thing. And even if that is a fin, based off that measurement, let's see here. That's probably got to be one of the biggest fucking cat. Cause like,
Oh
I know
yeah,
how
that
big
thing's
they
at least
said to
10
be.
feet long.
That's like one of the even big for the standard of what they're describing these catfish to be. And that just seems a little bit like it just seems like they're reaching with the catfish concept. The fractures could have easily and the bruising could have literally been caused from his body just hitting the water the wrong. Like even with the perfect form concept, he could have like just he could have hit something. Or
Yeah.
let's give some validity to this whole fish concept. Why does that change the fact? Why is this EMS crew not prepared, especially if they're locals, if they live there, if they know this? Why was
Yeah,
this
the fact
not
that they're
noted?
able to be like, oh yeah, these catfish and blah blah blah. Okay, then especially if this is like a competition that's like well known, how come they don't have the resources to like clear those waters out and set up like dams around where they're jumping just for that day, and once they're gone, open it back up and the fish can come back in. Like, you know what I mean? Like even stuff like that. Like the fact that they're quick to just say, "Oh, it's because of the catfish." Okay, then do something about it.
Well, here's another thing too. If you're so concerned about jumping in the water, if that's what they say, why don't you have some kind of knife on you? It's not like a fish is gonna be like a goddamn shark. It's not like this catfish is going to like not like you stab it enough, it's going to let go.
Yeah.
Like, it's like yeah, you may get injured in the fact you're saving a man's life, but it's still you're an EMS crew. The first thing you do is being an EMS person is yes, I know you got to take care of your life, otherwise you can't save lives. But there's one singular life. There are 6 of you. It looks to be at least maybe 6 or more or less, like roughly around that number though.
Yeah. Well,
those
if multiple
numbers don't
jump
add
in the
up.
water, that catfish isn't going to take all 6 of you on at once.
Yeah,
Especially if the
right,
one
like-
person it's attacking is not one of the rescue people. Like
And
I'm
that way
pretty
you
sure.
could at least verify this. If you could at least got a glimpse, like instead of hesitating to jump in the water, it's not like you're gonna jump in the water. There's gonna be 3,000 catfish just ready to fucking maul you.
Yeah.
That's
Like I'm
not-
pretty
that's
sure
not
that
how it
guy would have rather lost a leg than died.
Yeah,
Like oh no, it's got his leg. He's done for. Like nah. Like I'd rather lose like the bottom bottom half of one of my legs, knowing that I could have been saved.
yeah, seriously. He's a diver. He can learn to swim with one leg.
Yeah.
Leaving this
Right,
as a
swimming in the
very
afterlife.
legitimate theory. But
Swimming in
along
the
with this,
afterlife.
another major theory has
Swimming in
been
the
put
clouds.
forth, and that is the idea that Andre had suffered a broken vertebrae upon entering the water. The news site Telegraph actually reported this as the official autopsy's cause of death, but the validity of this
Yep,
claim
yeah,
is
broken back.
shaky, as it offers no citations, as well as being the only news site to report this information, despite universal
Plus, that's the thing too, is that like rivers have like undercurrents. That's why when it was like, oh, he looked like he got pulled under, it could have been a catfish, or it was just the undercurrent.
Yeah, it's the current and it's a broken spine keeping him from being able to fight the current. That's why his head is turning. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's fucking, he became a fucking, his spine's become an accordion essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like he can't turn his body the right way. So he's getting turned by the undercurrent and he grabbed his legs and it pulled him that way. And that's why his head turns. And that's why it sucks him under.
Mm-hmm. Dumb.
coverage of the case. But we do know that his body did have multiple fractures when it was found, though the location of it has yet to be confirmed. And with that being said, a broken vertebrae is a risk for any diver, and it would have limited him from being able to keep his head above water, even as a experienced professional. But as mentioned previously, nothing seemed off in his diving form, and had he actually suffered from vertebrae fractures once hitting the water, he likely would have lost all feelings in his limbs, rendering him unable to move. Yet he was able to hold his head above water and move his arms during the ordeal, So either they had fractured a specific way that was potentially made worse when he started to move, causing him to go limp, or this theory is a dead end. Whatever the case may be, the event and the subsequent video footage remains a chilling mystery. Andre's family has since sued the response team for negligence. And
Good.
while there's no
Yeah.
way to be sure, it's more than likely that a faster response time would have at the very least recovered his body in a timely manner and given the family.
What do you mean a faster response time? They were there. They were literally.
They were right next to him. It's not about faster response time. It's about doing your fucking job.
Yeah.
Like,
And the
it's
world
about
of
not hesitating.
Yeah, that's all it was the hesitation. They were literally in the boats, and they could literally see him what looked like 10 to 20 feet away in the water when he surfaced one more time. That's where you jump in. Oh, he's right there. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
diving answers and
ridiculous.
some much needed closure. But whereas Andre and his family likely would have never guessed his life would end that day, our final video showcases a subject that may be alluding to her own impending fate.
Yeah, was it like 3 videos?
Yeah, but they've been talking like
yeah.
10 minutes about
This
Yeah,
each
he's
is
video.
breaking down the
in
videos.
high.
Yeah.
A 36-year-old Korean actress turned beauty YouTuber, a beloved and at times controversial celebrity from South Korea. And the video you're watching now follows the typical mold of many others across her channel, as she frequently shared beauty tips in the form of vlogs. However, this video came with a twist, due to the fact that it would prove to be the last she'd ever post, as just 2 days upon going live, she would be dead, leaving behind a grieving family, thousands of heartbroken fans, and what some would claim to be a cryptic set of clues. It was the night of September 13th, 2020, when a friend of Oh In-hai checked in on the actress.
This is giving me some like Gone Girl vibes. You ever see that movie?
Yeah, I have. And, like, I don't know. Something about like, I'd say this is personally, I think Asians do creepy better than Americans do. And I know this is a real tragic case. Like, this is awful that this lady lost her life. But like, I don't know. Like, have you seen the Asian Grudge versus the American Grudge?
No.
Or
I
not
didn't-
the Grudge, the Ring. The Ring.
Oh, no,
I think it was
I
the
haven't.
Ring. Or no, it was the Grudge. It was the Grudge. But either way, fucking terrifying. I'm pretty sure it was the Grudge. It was because there's like an Asian version. But even so, like they just do movies like with a terrifying twist way better. So like I'm already like nervous. I know this is a real life event. It's tragic, and like them talking about cryptic clues. I'm already kind of like, all right, what kind of fucking sketchy shit has happened here? Like, because it just sounds like she's kind of a celebrity to some extent. They're talking about like what she does makeup.
Yeah.
And it's like she's got thousands of followers. So it's kind of like, okay, is this going to lean towards the crazy stalker concept? Is this going to, like, or is she being held hostage? Or is this someone she knew? It seems like they're going to try to do one of those, like, the people try to solve what happened to her kind of moments.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes.
Only to find her unconscious in her home. Medical personnel were called, but by the time they reached the hospital, she had no pulse. And despite having been revived for a short period of time, she would sadly pass away on the morning of September 14th. The investigation that followed was a quick one, and equally as vague, with officials hastily stating that the actress had taken her own life, something that would be confirmed via autopsy the following day, with her official cause of death being cardiac arrest from a suicide attempt. Although details from this autopsy would never be released, and no further context was provided, leading to the story being forgotten, as many have accepted In-hai's death as an open and shut case. However, despite the autopsy being released, online speculation had only just begun, as internet sleuths began to notice a number of oddities, especially in regards to her social media use in the days leading to her death. And it all seemed to begin with that final video titled In-hai's Nightly Routine Skincare. The video itself was labeled as Volume 48, something she did chronologically with every video she uploaded. But strangely, In-hai had made an error with this final video, as her previous upload was 45, so naturally this video would have been Volume 46, instead of 48. A rather minor detail to nitpick, but it gets even stranger from here. As the video plays, things take a sudden turn, as a jarring glitch unfolds on the screen. A glitch that begins 48 seconds in and ends at the 1 minute and 46 second mark.
즉흥적으로 해보려고 카메라를 켰습니다. 아 시원해. 아직 머리도 안 말렸는데 진짜 리얼로 보여주려고 정말 평소에 쓰는 나이트 케어가 어떻게 되는지 순서도 지금 즉흥적으로 제일 첫 번째는 토너를 화장솜에 묻혀서 닦아내야겠죠?
The video of Inhai randomly begins to buffer for nearly an entire minute in a bizarre and disturbing manner, as it gives the illusion of Inhai chopping at her neck over and over and over again. And even more strangely, despite the audio track being consistent throughout this strange glitch, around the 92 second mark, you can hear what appears to be another voice come in.
아시죠?
It seems unnaturally high-pitched, and clearly was not part of the original audio track. According to multiple reports online, this unexplained voice supposedly says something that roughly translates to, "I'm going to die," though some have countered this claim, stating that this translation was a reach. Around the 103rd second mark, another unnatural voice can also be heard, though to my knowledge, a direct translation hasn't been found. And immediately following the strange soundbite, the video begins to play normally, as if nothing happened. It's an error that lasts no more than a minute.
Well, I'm trying to fit like, if she so she's posted videos like this before. She obviously would have noticed that there was a glitch, and she would have edited it or redid the video.
Yeah, so she deliberately left that in.
Yeah,
So
especially with the two voices
definitely
that.
intentional.
Yeah, I'm
So
still trying
that's
to.
weird.
I'm still trying to figure out like where like yeah, it's a dark story. Like if she committed suicide, but like if she literally left hints in a glitchy part of the video saying "I'm going to die," and the video glitched at a point where she was chopping at her neck with her comb. Like
Yeah, maybe she saw that as an opportunity too. Like I can see why the fan base would be like, I'm not one person to jump on the idea of like insane, crazy conspiracy concepts. Like this girl could have very well been unwell and did kill herself, but it could have even been like a minor cry out for help in that video. But like even to say that like, not to say someone else killed her, but that could have been her like trying to signal to somebody subliminally because she didn't know how to reach out that like I'm gonna kill myself. But we'll see how it progresses because I'm curious to see because it sounds like you might have more here.
yeah, like
so.
there's more to dive into with the video with like Easter eggs in it or
Minutes. Yet the clock in the background of the video skips forward 3 to 4 minutes, potentially casting doubt on the idea that this could be an error within the video file itself. All in all, this entire section of
Wait, so that
If
glitch
it's a
lasts
video file issue.
that glitch lasted a minute, but then the clock jumped forward 3 minutes.
The fuck?
That's what it showed, like where she was like glitching. That lasted from like 46 seconds until like a minute 48, so it was like a minute long. But then once the glitch stopped, the clock jumped forward 3 minutes.
Okay, so there's only two explanations for that, in my opinion. So that I can think of. You might have another one because you do more editing and stuff like that. But in terms of like this is a deliberately edited glitch then. Because she took the time and she left something out.
Mm-hmm.
She cut something out.
Yeah, it's not that hard to have to place in an edited video, especially if she's sitting in the same spot. Like you wouldn't notice if you can line it up perfectly where two videos intersect, where you can't see that skip in between the videos, and especially if it's a glitch, you're going to be able to tell even less because it's glitching.
And my only other explanation is that this glitch was a lot longer than what it was showing, but
She edited out half of it.
Yeah. So either this is like so it's either like this was implanted in this video or this glitch was longer. That's the only thing I could see, but she deliberately looked at this glitch at some point.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could think, unless they're like, can the video file corrupt in such a way that like, because it said that like she stopped glitching and the video continued as normal, but it still skipped 3 minutes forward.
Yeah.
that I can only think of that being edited. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
if it was a video glitch
Well, yeah,
itself.
Either she edited it that way, or she's a time traveler. There's no other way.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't think of a way your video file's corrupted to where like your glitch ends, you're still doing normal stuff, but now it's 3 minutes past instead of the minute 18 that was glitching.
Especially with the fact that she was talking through the visual glitch. Like the audio was still good the whole time. Like the audio
Yeah.
never was messed up. I don't know.
So that there's no. Let's see
The
what
video
he gives us
is
next.
off-putting, and Inhai herself even addresses this by adding, "Please skip over the buffering parts," in parentheses at the end of her title. Despite the clarification, it's hard to ignore the movements she makes during this. I mean, she's repeatedly chopping at her neck for a whole minute, and couple this with the supposed disembodied voice seemingly saying, "I'm going to die." Something about this video just wasn't adding up, as after all, looking through her channel, every one of her other videos are cleanly edited and filmed in a professional manner, and going through
Yeah. Why would she put "please skip over the buffering part"? That's going to trigger people to look more at
Look
the
at the
buffering part.
buffering part. Yeah. Here, hold this thought. I just want to refill my water real quick. Just give me like 5 seconds.
All right.
I need to hydrate. I know we're still recording. All right, let's solve this mystery.
her catalog reveals no major editing flaws. Yet this minute-long error in the beginning of a video made the final cut. Something seems very off here, especially given the fact that just 48 hours later, Owen High would be dead. And though this may just be a coincidental glitch, I struggle to believe that an error like that could cause these strange voices, especially when those voices are pitched differently, and that one might be saying, "I'm going to die." But if it wasn't a buffering error, then that means it would have been done intentionally, which is incredibly important to note given that Owen High was her own video editor for this particular video. She had sole control over its production, meaning she would have been the one to orchestrate this, which leaves the big question, why? Well, many have pointed to the idea that Owen High was alluding to her own death within this video, as just 48 hours later she would be found without a pulse. A time that is noteworthy, considering she had mistakenly numbered her video as 48, despite it really being the 46th upload, along with the glitch itself beginning at the 48-second mark. And to add even more to the coincidence of this number, in her video prior to her last, she added these subtitles which feature the numbers 4 and 8 shown over and over again, which in the context of the video did actually translate to a relevant joke. However, it's strange regardless. That would make one question whether she used the number 48 to symbolize her impending death, especially given the movement of her comb and the morbid voiceover. And the theories don't stop from there, as there were even those who thought that this wasn't a clue to her impending suicide, but rather it was a hint at her impending murder. This theory stems from her last Instagram post, uploaded on the night of.
Okay, but if she thinks she's in danger and she's...
Do you think she should go to the cops?
Yeah, especially being a like a highly viewed, and watched person.
Yeah, like that doesn't make it. Okay, well, unless they're like, she's threatened like, oh, you'll die right away if you go to the cops. But like, what would they have to gain from killing her? You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless like you said in the beginning, like a stalker thing, but...
Yeah, but I feel like they would. Well, continue it. Yeah.
Of her death that simply featured a photo of a flower, but the caption is what interests most, as it translated to, "I guess everyone is seeing this, even the person who said I'm just a body," implying a piece of meat, and saying it's not the wording that he can even use till the end. "I think I have to expose you because of that one phrase. I didn't want to believe anything else that came out of that mouth." Tagged in the post was a prominent lawyer and frequent social media user named Hu Wang, a man who, even to this day, we're unsure of what his relationship was to Owen High. Much like the video she had posted in the days prior, This caption was extremely out of the ordinary for Owen High, as typically her posts were positive and cheerful. And after an hour of confused fans questioning her, Owen High would delete the post altogether. Around this time, Wang would also delete all of his social media, having gone completely silent since. Quickly, it was speculated that In Hai was going to expose Wang for some type of misconduct, and in fear of losing his career, he went after her. This theory was backed up by testimony from In Hai's own family, who upon seeing In Hai in the hospital, noticed bruises all over her body, although this was likely a result of the hours of CPR that had been performed on her. Regardless of what the connection was, it is a bit odd that just one day after threatening to expose this popular lawyer, she was found unresponsive in her own home, and is again made more convincing given her final video, making it seem like she knew what would happen to her if she came forward against him. However, in actuality, Wang was never even considered a suspect by police, and it has never even been proven that the two knew each other, making it unlikely that he had any involvement in her death. And in actuality, it seems more likely that this final Instagram post, and even this final video, really just hinted at In Hai's declining mental health. Which brings us back to the idea that this video was made as a hint that she would take her own life. According to her own friends, In Hai had spent years in a deep depression that stemmed all the way back in 2011. That year, she became enthralled in controversy when she wore a revealing dress at a Korean award show. And though this may seem like a minor detail, this would actually lead to her eventual blacklisting from the Korean film industry, as she would receive less and less roles until 2014, when she would cease appearing in films completely, becoming a universally hated person in the country she lived in. So it's understandable why she would have been in a very dark place mentally. And given the taboo nature of mental health in South Korea, she likely did not have resources for proper therapy or medication to help deal with these feelings. Something that could have escalated to her acting erratically, and maybe even sending out a cryptic call for help, with Wang potentially having said or did something that would prove to be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Or at the end of the day, it could all just be a huge coincidence, as, after all, practically all the articles we could find on this case are far from reputable, and many of the strange details could, at the end of the day, be chalked up to as confirmation bias. Plus, we've seen many online claims that it's very likely the mysterious voices being heard were really just her voice sped up for a comedic effect, to make some sort of sarcastic joke. A note that is easy to miss as a non-native speaker. Whatever the true meaning of this video is, it serves as a dark spot in the world of YouTube, with it having been mysteriously removed when speculation began to arise for reasons that remain unknown, making it a cryptic, yet fitting end to one of YouTube's darkest videos.
Okay. So
All right,
basically,
let's break that down. I have a couple theories. I want to hear yours first, though.
okay. Basically, for me, it's especially with kind of the ending, how it sounded, hearing about her past, with her being blacklisted from Korean TV, her having troubles with depression. I think that it basically comes down to she was just showing hints and basically telling people that she was going to take her own life. Simply as that. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
So I got three hypotheticals here. We'll run with your idea. So we'll say the suicide theory. So with the suicide theory concept, so there's actually kind of two suicide theories. So I have two suicide and one homicide, and or two homicide, one suicide. Sorry. So the suicide theory runs like this. So yeah, the decaying mental health, and the thing that happened, like, you know how they say that he was the one who posted something. I think that's why he deleted all his social media account. He was probably trolling her, and she probably snapped, and she probably said like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill myself on this day. Blah 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 blah. It's all your fault. They're gonna know." And then that's when she made that post, and that's why he deleted all his social media, because he's probably like, he's a lawyer. He's probably conservative. And he probably knew about her blacklisting from all this, and he probably called her like a slut or called her a piece of meat, because that's the remark he made, that you're a piece of meat and that's what all you're good for, hinting at the fact that she wore such a skimpy dress, which just pushed her mental health over the limit, because that's what she probably thought of herself already.
Mm-hmm.
Which, fuck you, conservative culture for doing that to a woman. No, that's not okay. Her dress didn't look that skimpy. You can't blacklist someone because they wore a dress. Fuck you. It's just stupid. I don't care about your cultural customs. Go fuck yourself. You should never drive someone to kill themselves if that's what happened here. And especially if they're good at what they do. I don't care. I'll disrespect you every day. And that's just like, you disrespect me all you want. I don't care. I stand by what I feel. No one should ever feel like they can't get help. And it sounds like your suicide rates are through the roof, or at least during her time period anyways. So, but with that moving forward, if it was the suicide story, yeah, the bruises, the contusions are following the bruising from the EMS crews trying to, if that was only centralized here, then yes, that adds up. If there's bruising anywhere else, that does show the potential of physical abuse from the second party. But yeah, so that's my suicide thought process, and that's what I kind of lean towards too. And the hints were just kind of like a sick joke for herself, kind of like, I, having been in a depressive mindset, I could easily see her like, oh yeah, like, I'm gonna do this because it's kind of like funny, like, because oh, what if I'm gonna kill myself? Because that's what a lot of people do when they're suicidal. They kind of joke about it with themselves. As dark as that sounds, it's a very common way for them to vent it. But she might have just like kind of been just beyond gone at that point mentally, and just didn't know how to reach out. So she could have just did that. Now for my two murder themes, the two divergent points here for the murder, they all line up to the same point, except for when it gets to, like, say this lawyer did it, right? Say this guy is this fucking big bad. So that's the divergent point right there. It's either him or someone else. So if it was a murder thing, the few things I could see that kind of add up, if the bruisings are all over her body, him calling her a piece of meat, if that's true to form, because like he deleted all his social media, that doesn't look good. The video was taken off YouTube. Maybe it was that could have happened for a couple reasons. So the family can just have their peace, so people stop trying to reach out and investigate and create a bigger scenario. But the family themselves even said they saw the bruising, and I'd feel like a family's educated enough to know, like, when there's CPR bruising versus like. And if the medical crew doesn't explain that to them and they still are adamant in that feeling, then maybe there's a little bit more speculation there of what could have possibly happened to her. The whole voice thing being her sped up is weird. But yeah, since she's the sole editor, she had every control of everything that was going on there. And but with it being her last video, that's really hard to determine.
Yeah,
if
because
she
somebody could have had control over it before she posted it, or posted it in blackmail, and like having control over her, saying, I'm going to post it this way and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And so, and the divergent point is either this lawyer is somebody that was involved in the situation, or someone who looked like the person potentially, and could have been part of the spark of her depression, could have been one of the people who slandered her from the beginning about her looks, and they just looked a lot alike. And there's just a couple just diverging thought processes there. But yeah, no, overall, I do lean towards the suicide theory, as unfortunate as it is. And yeah, like I said, like, I will respect your cultural customs, but not the ones that drive people to kill themselves. You should never feel like you have the right to drive someone to kill themselves because they wore a dress that they felt beautiful in. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. A life should never get lost over that. Just like that EMS crew should have never let that man die. It's the same. It's exactly the same. It's negligence. It's negligence of understanding and realizing, like, now if she was like butt ass naked, like fucking trying to like jerk everybody off at the festival, I get it. Like, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, maybe we should get this person out of here. But like, she was just wearing a dress. Like, you look at how Americans do it. Fuck that. Like, dude, half them, like, we wear questionable shit all the time.
Yeah.
You don't see everyone getting blacklisted for it. Yeah, you get your ultra conservatives like, oh, cover up your tatas, but they're the same guys who jerk off to them in the bathroom later.
Yeah.
So it's like people are gonna wear what they want to wear, and like, as long as it's like, the way I look at it, the line is like, your ass and your titties both shouldn't be hanging out. Just like a man's dick pecs both shouldn't be out. It's one or the other, baby. You can't have both. It's called sexy professional. Either your titties are out or your ass is out. Just like men, either your pecs are out or your dick's bulging. You can't have both. I break that rule all the time with my tight swim shorts, though.
Yeah,
But just figured I'd end on a light note there.
Yeah, no, that was a good video, and it kind of sparks me to kind of look into more of these like murder, suicide controversies, and maybe we'll make an episode out of that in the future to just find a video that they highlight like conspiracy murders of like high-profile targets and stuff, and then we'll kind of break them down. But
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm 100% down for that. I love these kind of videos, and this video was well put together. It was nice to have like 3 stories with the details, so we can kind of draw our own speculations.
yeah, we'll definitely we'll have to break down more of his videos in the future about other topics he does. So,
did you want to do another video, or you just kind of burned out on it for tonight?
We could do another one. I'm gonna eat dinner first, though. So,
yeah, go ahead. I'd be down to do another one tonight because I actually kind of enjoyed doing that one, so I'd be down to react to another one of his videos.
Yeah,
as long as it's not too scary.
No, yeah, that sounds good. I'll give it like maybe like 7 o'clock. Reconvene. It's like 6:30 right now.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys want us to dive into more of these, we're gonna do it whether you like it or not. But if you guys have good feedback, that makes us feel a little bit better. So, see you guys in a little bit.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Yeah, stay tuned for another episode of MCVC. I'm feeling it. He's feeling it. We're feeling it. So we're gonna get after it.
Yes. All right. See ya.
Oh yeah.